A lot of people say that if you train heavy, sets of 5 to 10 instead of sets of 10 to 30 repetitions per set, that you will become more dense. You will get a denser look or feel to your muscles, and that's probably not true. Spoiler alert. Oh, I said it too soon. Common claim that going heavier will give you a denser look to your muscles. And some people see like powerlifters look real dense. So I have a few questions for that line of reasoning. First, what does a dense look actually mean? I actually don't know what that means. You could say like, well, it's the look like Branch Warren has. Google if you don't know who that is. And the first image come up, you're going to be like, holy tank. But Branch trained with all kinds of repetition ranges and a lot of sets of 20 to 30 reps and burnouts and drop sets and finishers. And he just kept looking more and more tank-like. So that's interesting. So maybe there's not a dependable relationship, but the relationship to what? I don't know what that means. So yes, maybe it means you look like Branch Warren, but maybe it means you look like someone else and no one's really been able to just point like, no, it's this look right here. I don't know what a dense look means. If you think about the concept of density, it's just a relationship of weight and volume. So how can you even infer that from looking at something? Like Wolverine without his adamantium skeleton looks exactly the same visually as with the adamantium skeleton, and he's like 10 times more dense with it. So how can you tell a muscle's more dense? Is it bubblier? Is it grainier? I mean, you can actually only see the surface of a muscle. Is it rounder? Are the muscles bunched together more? But isn't that just more muscle mass? Like, are we really so sure that heavy training does that? We know for a fact that research confirms that anywhere between sets of 5 repetitions per set, going close to failure, and sets of 30 to even 40 reps per set cause roughly the same amount of total hypertrophy. So you could get super enormous looking. Another person to Google is Dennis James. Google Dennis James bodybuilder. The first picture you see of him, like one of his most musculars, you're going to be like, how the fuck is that a real person? There's no more room to add muscle on his body. Dennis James didn't necessarily go hard and heavy. He did a ton of different rep ranges. It's true for most bodybuilders that look the most anything you can think is a dense look. Maybe people mean the muscles are physically harder to the touch. That's not really a look though anymore. That's a feel. If you have a job feeling up bodybuilders, you'll be pleasantly surprised. Wait, is there a job like that? Can I put in my application? It's like experience, like I have a lot of desire, and I think that's more than enough. How do we know that this is true though? Let's say the claim is now, okay, but the muscles are physically harder. Do we know this? Well, good news, I'm a professor of sports science. We don't. So I don't know how people found this out. Now, it could be a hypothesis that people have generated from exclusively clinical setting of training, the actual experiential training, and they're saying, look, I've seen this in training. I feel that maybe it's true. I used to be a competitive powerlifter. It wasn't very good, don't worry, back in my drug-free days, those halcyon days, so many moons ago. And I trained mostly for sets of, 3 to 8 reps. And it wasn't any harder or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I had significant problems with hardness, especially when I had nerves and stuff like that. We're not all performers, folks. Don't worry, I got it resolved. I just began to be celibate. So to me, I never observed that relationship. I've trained hundreds and hundreds of people. I've never observed the relationship that there's some kind of density relationship or hardness relationship with heavy training. Maybe there's a mechanistic thing though, because we know there's one of you who's going to already have posted this. So you can go ahead and delete your comment now. JK, leave it in there for all of us to ridicule. Also kidding, stay calm. Myofibrillar versus sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Myofibrils are the actual tissue inside the muscle, the organelles inside the muscle that house the contraction machinery, actin and myosin and shit like that. Those are myofibrils. But then there's other parts of the muscle cell, which all look like muscle on the outside, that have, there's more, so it's called sarcoplasm. And it's just like there's some other organelles floating around in there. Your nucleus technically sits in it. There's ribosomes and vesicles and stuff. And it's kind of the more poofier, liquidier version. Right? That's at a microscopic scale though. So it all just looks like muscle at the top end. So are people saying you get more myofibrillar hypertrophy and less sarcoplasmic hypertrophy? That's possible, but we also know from many studies that there is a distinct myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, but typically sarcoplasmic hypertrophy occurs first. Like when you first start resistance training, your muscle glycogen ability to store goes up much faster initially than the myofibrils are constructed anew because they just take longer to construct. But at the end of 3 or 6 months of training, it doesn't matter what rep range you train in, you roughly have the same ratio of myofibril to sarcoplasm that anyone who trained in any other rep range has. So it's kind of this temporary thing that if you at first train very heavy and low volume, you don't get a big sarcoplasmic expansion, but then your myofibrils grow over time. If you do train with higher reps, you get a big initial expansion, but then it sort of floats away and the myofibrils underneath grow anyway to fill in the space. So if that's the case, then long term, it kind of doesn't fucking matter. So maybe this doesn't add up. And if there is research in the future, which there hasn't been yet, that shows that doing a wide range of rep ranges, all the sets of 5 to 10 and 10 to 20 and 20 to 30 have bring in their own special kind of growth, why wouldn't you do all 3 of them in some part of your training periodization? You wouldn't want to miss out. So that really seems to be the case. And you basically, for now, the way to research is you at least want to use every rep range. You get a high stimulus to fatigue ratio. So if sets of 20 really light up your biceps, but they're great on your joints, and sets of 5 are amazing for your back, but sets of 20 just tire your back out, yeah, do lots of sets of 5 for your back and sets of 20 for your biceps. Wherever that stimulus is high, pump, burn, soreness, all that other stuff, and the fatigue is low, you feel okay, you're not super systemically drained, it doesn't break your joints down or anything like that. That's kind of the right answer. So training on purpose with lots of sets of 5 to 10 to build density, even though the quality of your training sucks. Like, hey, how's your chest training going? Like, I don't know, man. Just like my shoulders hurt, my elbows hurt, my pecs don't get very sore, very pumped. But apparently sets of 5 to 10 are supposed to get me dense or something. That is not a dependable thing at all. What is much more dependable is choosing a repetition range for your pecs. Let's say it sets 12 to 15, really light your pecs up in the best possible way. And it's weight just light enough that your joints feel good. That's not the wrong answer. You will get bigger muscles because we also know that there may be no such thing as the muscles get denser. And if they're denser, there may be no identifying it externally. The look is the look is the look. And then some people just look more tank-like than others, and it probably has nothing to do with the composition of the muscles themselves. So the verdict here, as far as I see it, tentatively for now, because we're trying to think like scientists, is at best, this muscle density idea is something we don't care about. It's myofibrillar versus sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, but like, who cares? It's all hypertrophy. Get me jacked, and eventually it fills out to the same thing anyway. And at worst, it's just not a real thing. AKA, it's just total bullshit. You know, I don't even want to bring in Arnold to say bullshit. It's just regular this time, guys. All right, go out there, train ultra heavy, get dense, get hurt, and talk about the good old days. See you guys next time.